So today on Cooking with Kitty, I got a pretty special episode for you, or what I think is a special episode. Going to be a little bit different than the rest of them. I'm going to feature a few items like I normally do, and then I'm going to, probably won't get around to cooking on this episode, but I'm going to have a dedication. Just, let's see how this shit turns out. I don't know. But let me go ahead and, it's snowing today. It's supposed to snow a foot today. On snow days, there's not a whole lot to do. In fact, there's not a lot to do. But what I find that always goes well on snow days is R&R Canadian whiskey. You can drink that shit with anything. And I do. So, now that that's out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and feature my new products. Not new products, I mean, let's just see. So I've been a big fan of incense ever since, probably 15, 16 years old and started, doing some shit I probably shouldn't have been doing, but I like incense. I'm a huge fan, always been a big fan. My go-to incense that I've always gone to is Nag Champa. I had a roommate in college, Andrew McGuirl, Andy. He got me hooked on Nag Champa. Anyway, it's been my go-to forever. Well, I found something I like even better than Nag Champa. And it's called Songs of India. And it honestly smells a lot like Champa. But I think the reason that I like this the most, and it's now my new go-to incense, is because my daughter's name is India. It reminds me of her every time I light it and smell one. I put the, I sitting on my shelf up here, so I always see her name, India, and I feel that it brings me closer to her. So it's my new go-to incense, and each week I'm going to feature, what I've been burning that week, so you can, check it out, see what you think. Okay, so that's out of the way. I may get a little bit emotional, and you're just going to have to roll with me here. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I want to do this man justice. And I'm dedicating this episode to Waver P. Williams, my granddaddy. In my eyes, he was the greatest man that ever walked the face of this earth. He was a stoic, strong man. He didn't have a lot to say, but when he said it, you can believe it. But he was also very kind and gentle. And if you can see here in the back, I'm going to tell you a little about these things here. This is, first of all, here's his flag, his come on kitty, his memorial, or his medals from he was a World War II veteran, and I want to talk about that a little bit. And this picture underneath here, this is his Army regiment. He served in the Army, and he followed General George Patton all through Germany, through his Europe, Asia, and African campaigns. My granddaddy was right there the whole time. And this man is a legend to me. He is the man that got me, that ignited the fire in me to want to live this kind of lifestyle. He taught me everything that I know today. He got me. He just lit a fire in me to live this kind of lifestyle. And I hope I'm doing him justice. But a little bit more about him, and I'm going off of memory, so I'm gonna try to be as accurate as I can about this. But when he joined the Army, he was 23, 24 years oldish, and it was somewhere in between the Okefenok Swamp and the town of Live Oak today. Lake City's kind of in the middle. He was in that area, and an Army van, Jeep full of recruits came by, and they offered my granddad. They said, "Hey, look, you know, you enlist, we'll give you a pancake breakfast and a fucking pair of shoes," because he didn't have shoes on his feet. He logged when he was younger in the Okefenok Swamp, the big hand saws, 2-man hand saws. 12 years old, he was pulling out, you know, huge cypress with a mule. Didn't have shoes. But anyway, he said, you know, that's the best thing I've ever heard, free breakfast and a pair of shoes. So that's how he enlisted in the Army. And he ended up being a cook in the Army, and he was a cook for George Patton. And you know, he didn't like to talk about the Army much. He didn't, you know, he had to see things and do things that he just didn't want to talk about. And so then they came and interviewed him a few times over the years, because you know these old veterans are, you know, they're reaching the end of their lives, and there's a whole part of history that's being lost, and we can't forget that. And we can't forget the men like my granddaddy that did what they did. This article, my granddaddy, he didn't like to talk about a lot. He didn't storm the beaches of Normandy, but he told me he was there to clean up the aftermath. And he didn't like to talk about it at all, but here's an article that they wrote in the Lake City Tribune about him. He was at Pearl Harbor the day the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and he said rum and coke saved his life on that day. And the story is that he was going to stay on the USS Ulysses, I believe is the name of the boat that got bombed in the harbor, had 1,700 Navy guys on it. 75 survived out of 1,700. But anyway, his buddy was on there, and he said, "Hey, man, why don't you come stay with me tonight? You know, spend the night on the boat, check that out." And my granddad was like, "Yeah, cool." My granddad ended up going to the ball game, got to drinking, ended up hooking up with some chick, didn't make it back to the boat. That's what saved his life. And he had the hardest time coming to grips why God spared his life and took his buddies. And I've always believed it was to be there for me. Because he was my biggest role model. He was my biggest fan. God's got a purpose for everybody. You don't know what it is. And you just gotta fucking roll with it. You just gotta, you know. But anyway, that's a little bit about that. There's some more articles in there that I've got, but I just can't I can't put them. I don't have any places to put them, and I don't want to make this an hour-long video. You know, because like I said last one, nobody wants to watch it, but there's his regiment, and this is the Asiatic Pacific Campaign, Honorable Service, World War II Medal of Victory, European, African, Mid-Eastern Campaign, Good Conduct, American Campaign Regiment, an American Defense Award. And the whole point I'm getting at with this whole thing, when you see a man like this on the street, an old veteran, you hear the national anthem, you take your hat off, you stand at attention, you put your hand over your heart, and you show these men respect. Because they've done shit that you couldn't do, that you couldn't imagine doing, and they've done it. You know, so we can sit here and bitch about fucking Dr. Seuss books. It's because of men like this. And you show them the respect that they deserve. Because they're a dying breed, and when they're gone, the rest of us ain't shit. These are real men. We can't hold a candle to men like Waver Williams. They don't make men like this anymore. So you give them respect. Man, that was tough. I'm over that now. I knew I was going to have a hard time with that, guys. I knew I was going to have a hard time with that. I'm fixing to lighten it up here the rest of the time. But I had to get that out. I feel better now that I got that out. Now, I just want to tell you a few more stories I know about my granddaddy. And I'll make it quick. I'm at almost 12 minutes now. I'll make 2 minutes. We're out here. R&R, rich and rare Canadian whiskey. They go the best on snow days. I drink this shit with everything. I'll tell you a little story how my granddaddy met my granny, okay? So, when my granddaddy was courting my granny, he told me stories. He would take my granny down the Santa Fe, the Swanee River, and they'd go skinny dipping. They'd build a big bonfire on the side of the bank. They'd go skinny dipping, and they would dynamite fish. You know, you wrap a stick of dynamite in mud, throw it in the water, boom, it explodes, it stuns all the fish float up, you bring them in, then you go clean them and cook them on the bank. Sounds like an awesome date to me. I mean, that's a fucking rock solid date, guys. But anyway, okay, he bombed this. This is an alligator snapping turtle. This is my prize. This is one of my prized possessions. I love this thing more than anything in the world. I would take this over a pound of fucking gold. Gold's almost $2,000 an ounce. This is more special to me than this. But anyway, this was the gift. He made this for my granny as a wedding gift. When they got married, he gave this turtle shell to my granny. You might not think, oh, that's a shitty gift. This is a fucking priceless gift. He made this out of love to my granny. Well, my granny, I can remember as a kid, she kept this on her counter in the kitchen. They lived in a single wide trailer with my two uncles, my mom, granny and granddaddy in a single wide trailer. They didn't have much. They were content. They were happy. There's a lot to be said for that. Anyway, she used to knead biscuits in here. She'd pour flour in here, pour milk, knead biscuits, and she used this as a bowl to make biscuits. And my granny made the best cat head biscuits that you have ever eaten in your life. They had biscuits or cornbread with every single meal they ate. And she would, I remember she had bad arthritis in her hands, but she would, I think the way they call cat head biscuits is because the way you knuckle them like this when you pat them out. And it literally makes like a cat's face with whiskers. I think that's, anyway, that's my impression. But, that's how this turtle shell came about, and it is one of my most prized possessions. I'm at 14 minutes now. I've got more stories. I may do another video later. Anyway, I didn't get to cooking on this video, so this next cooking show that I'm doing, I'm going to dedicate it to my... I'm not going to do more of this, but I'll show you what... You know, he's the one that got me... he's the one that inspired me, that got me motivated about cooking. Being in the kitchen with my granny and granddad growing up as a kid and watching them and the love that they had for each other and love they had for cooking and the way they planned their meals out. You know, they would plan, you know, you just... plant a mill. I'm gonna go south with it, but I owe everything to them. My granny, Armada Williams, Waver P. Williams. I love you guys. I know you guys are looking down, and I hope, you know, that I'm making you proud and whatever. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up right here. It's snowing. I'll show you that. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, you guys, the next video I'll do a cooking show. I promise you. You know, I hope. I did this video for me. I didn't do this for you. I wanted to dedicate this to my granddaddy. The rest of them are going to be cooking videos. Anyway, I'm at 15 minutes. I'll catch you guys later. I say peace out. Kitty says peace out. Until next week.